Good evening, friends. I hope you all are doing well. So, today we are going to talk about Sun and its correlation with Saturn. So, Sun in the solar system is the central principle around which there are different planets rotating, and these planets are also born out of Sun, which means that the Sun is the self-integrating principle for all the other factors in a natal chart as well as in real life. So, the Sun is nothing but the core sense of self. It is the self identity of an individual, it is the consciousness itself. So, when the identity is stable, when the confidence is healthy, the individual functions at the optimum level. So, in order to understand your Sun, you need to you need to act as per the sign placement, and you need to engage in the activities wherein your Sun is placed in your chart. So the core sense of self sometimes tends to move towards the extreme because it is not yet balanced. So there tends to be over exaggeration sometimes of the self, or there tends to be insecurity of the self. Both are fear based mechanisms, over exaggeration as well as insecurity. And that is where Saturn comes into the picture, wherein when the identity of the self is not integrated, there is a fear of extension of the identity, or there is a fear of being seen for what it is. So fear of extension of identity, we can correlate this to the red giant form of the Sun in the solar system, wherein the Sun's core is starting to diminish. That is when the Sun tries to expand itself in order to keep its relevance. And it is the similar case in real life as well, wherein an individual, if not feeling confident up to a certain level, this individual starts gaining attention from everybody else and starts taking up the energy of others in order to build its own identity, which is exhausting for the surrounding people as well as the individual itself. So this core sense of self is not stabilized in its own identity, and hence it is seeking validation through others. So that is one extreme which can be related to the red giant form of the Sun, and it is the fear of extinction, really. And there is a different form which is called as white dwarf, which can again we can correlate to the solar system principle of the Sun, wherein after being the red giant, after depleting the core up to a certain level, the core hardens to such a level that the identity now is fearful of being seen for what it is. Because the core hardens up to a certain level, if we see it in an astronomical sense, the core remains a skeleton. Here is the fear of being seen for what it is. This is the fear of insecurity, of fear of being judged, when we correlate this to the reality in our daily life. This individual is so anxious and insecure about his or her own identity that it is difficult for this individual to express himself or herself with regards to the masses or with regards to public. So this individual tries to diminish and retract its own identity up to a certain level that it no more exists, which is again a specific extreme. So the white dwarf form as well as the red giant form, both are extremes of the sense of self, and we can say that this is the shadow of the Sun which is correlating to Saturn, and it is correlating to a specific fear of being extinguished or a fear of being seen for what the person is. So in general sense, if we see fear is nothing but illusion. It is an illusion of the unknown, it is an illusion of the future. A person who is fearful lives in the future and not in the present. So in order to conquer this fear, it is very important to become aware of the fear itself, to see this fear from a higher perspective lens, from the macro lens. Once this person sees the fear, acknowledges it, becomes aware of it, then the fear starts to lose its hold. It starts to lose its grip. So, in order to get ahead of fear, it is very important that the fear has to be identified in its real sense for what it is. And once that awareness is there, then kicks in the consciousness, and that is how we move towards the sun. Essentially, the fear is said to be important because without that we will not be able to understand our core sense of self or our real identity. Because without the fear or without the boundaries of Saturn, we will not be able to understand who we are, what our core identity is. So it's important that Saturn and Sun both work together in tandem. They are anyways working in tandem, but then when it comes to the extremes, sometimes we tend to sway over either side. It is not both sides, it is either sides. So when we tend to balance out both these factors, we tend to understand our Sun better, and we also tend to understand our boundaries and our fears better and take a grip on it. So that is how Sun and Saturn are correlated in astrology. So that's all for today. I will be posting more videos on other planets as well on the channel, so stay tuned for more updates. Thank you.